So we've all heard the news at this point of Microsoft's slow descent into nonsense. And it only continues, my friends. It only continues. You see the latest, round of news kickstarted, of course, because of the reveal that Call of Duty's inclusion in Game Pass reportedly cost roughly $300 million across console and PC last year alone. Based on the reporting from Bloomberg, that is, it's implied that that includes not just lost sales. So people that would have bought it for 70, but got access to it for 10, that's a $60 loss, right? So basically what they did is they seemingly have been tracking users who historically would buy the game, the Call of Duty release at full price, and then would buy microtransactions and all of that. And they tracked the spending over the last year compared to the previous year to see if Game Pass somehow magically did drive up revenue. And it did not. They've lost $300 million as a result. And this is, to put it plainly, an unmitigated disaster. Like, this is just bad, I believe is the term. And it's so bad that now this lady is getting involved. She came in, talked to Phil. Phil, baby, what are we doing? This is Amy Hood. She is the chief financial officer at Microsoft. And reportedly, she has gotten, she got on the company jet, flew over to Xbox HQ, and she has gone through the books with Phil and his team, and they are trying to find ways to salvage this. Now, they're in between kind of a rock and a hard place because you have a few options, right? When your margins are negative, or at the very least very low. But when you're losing money, you either need to take more money in while keeping costs the same, tracking, or you need to cut costs, or ideally do both. And that's what they're seemingly trying to do here, is they're trying to cut costs and discounts and things to increase their margins. And then they're also trying to bring in more revenue by raising prices on everything. And the other option would be like the full Control Z option, which would be that Call of Duty is no longer included on Game Pass until like 6 months after it releases. But I think that they've realized at this point that they've done so much marketing implying that it is their day one, that that's the whole point of Game Pass. I don't think they want to backtrack on that because Xbox messaging has already been god awful. Can you imagine if they just decided to like start pivoting and going back on stuff? It'd be wild. But paired with this, it further reveals that it seems as though now the future of Xbox hardware is in jeopardy. And that was reported on by several outlets, specifically quoting one well-known leaker who has gotten stuff right with Xbox in the past. And there were other journalists who came out and echoed similar sentiments that Xbox's hardware future is now in jeopardy because they don't know if it's even worth investing in, considering the fact that nobody's buying Xboxes to begin with. We talked a little bit a while back about how Costco has removed Xboxes from sale. You can still buy PlayStations at Costco, but they are not stocking Xboxes anymore. And it's expected that there's going to be several other outlets that also remove the Xbox from store shelves as well, meaning it's going to all of a sudden get pretty hard to buy an Xbox even if you wanted one. And it's just because nobody's buying them and the prices keep going up. So why would they bother messing with that? Like outlets and stores who have limited shelf space will just not, no sweat off their back. So the whole thing is a disaster and a bit of a mess. And when Xbox PR people apparently heard about these rumors and leaks, they actually came out and discussed it. So as you can see, rumor, the future of Xbox is software publishing as next console generation faces doubts. And there's all sorts of rumors and sneakers. So an insider who successfully tipped and hinted at the Xbox shift towards third-party publishing, plans to replace staff with AI tools at Microsoft, dropped a huge rumor regarding the future of Xbox. He said specifically, I've heard that without going into too much detail, not long after the last round of layoffs, next one should be coming Q1 of 26, by the way, and it's going to be just as massive as the last one. Some rumblings out of Xbox started coming out that were a little hard to believe. Specifically, the ramifications of Call of Duty Game Pass Gambit not working out, we're just starting to get properly measured. But the thing that really stuck out to me was that suddenly really concrete plans for actual Microsoft Xbox hardware went from being definitive to up in the air, which was really startling unsettling given that this thing was meant to be out relatively soon. It was one of those situations where, despite folks being told, quote, hey, we want to pull the trigger on this in 2026, the steps you would need to take in the lead up to delivering a new console gen weren't being met. Lots of things that were sure things started getting pushed. The Costco retailer pulling Xbox, and apparently they are one of many that we'll be learning about soon, told me all I need to know. To sum it up, the future of Xbox software is publishing with a significantly owned in focus on profitable IPs, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Minecraft, Candy Crush, Forza, Horizon, etc. Cloud gaming being the home of Xbox platform, transitioning Game Pass into basically becoming the point of entry subscription for xCloud access, which will continue to drive its price tag higher, by the way. They aren't done with that just yet either. And releasing their software on any device that has a marketplace and users willing to buy their titles. Maybe some OEM thing will take up the Xbox name, but given how clearly a collapse in favorable mindshare and faith in said brand, I'm not sure even a third-party OEM is going to want to have an Xbox console by the time Microsoft is done with their reorienting of the division. Pretty scathing, but basically just paints the picture. The future of Xbox is in software distribution, just like with Windows. Yes, they have Surface laptops, they have Surface hardware, but that's not their business. Their business is software distribution, and they're going to start treating Game Pass and like Xbox as a platform the same way. They also are going to continue doubling down on what they think the future of gaming is, which is cloud streaming. They could be right, and maybe in 10 years, nobody will be using consoles. Could be that they're wrong. I feel like the sort of this is the last generation thing has been used by many companies throughout the years, and they're always wrong. Which doesn't mean that they will be wrong this time, but you remember like back with the 360 era, everybody was saying there will be no console generation after the what would end up being the PS4 and Xbox One, because everybody will only play games on mobile. That was something that was commonly said, that the future of gaming is on mobile. Are we playing like the biggest games nowadays on mobile? Like sort of, you could cloud stream it. Sort of, but I think pretty clearly the vast majority of people like to play things locally, whether it's on a high-end PC or it's on a console. There are people, yeah, they probably can't tell the difference. They can't tell the difference with latency and stuff. But more hardcore gamers, the ones that really spend a lot of money and are more, I guess, you could say, well, they're just more committed. They're going to buy high-end hardware and play it that way, especially because if you're big into like Call of Duty, you can tell the difference between a cloud-streamed version and a locally run version. Latency is a problem with cloud gaming. It just is. I remember trying to play Hi-Fi Rush through xCloud, and that's a game all about rhythm. And because the latency was so bad, you had to hit the beat literally like a 16th of a beat early on every single one. It was like infuriating because the latency was so bad. I'm sure it's better now, but like that's an issue that they still haven't really resolved. Not to mention that a lot of people throughout the world, and especially America, don't have good enough internet for cloud streaming. But anyway, now Microsoft had to come out and specifically address this, okay? They gave a statement to Windows Central. They also gave a similar sentiment or an identical statement to like Destin, who reached out. So it seems like they got a statement from Microsoft spokespeople and they started handing it out once they got approval from Phil and his team. What they said was basically equivalent to, they confirmed Xbox hardware plans are still on track. Here's why the rumors are false. And as you can see, Microsoft has provided the following statement echoing our previous report. Quote, we are actively investing in our future first-party consoles and devices designed, engineered, and built by Xbox. For more details, the community can visit our agreement announcement with AMD, which was the thing they did back in June, where they announced a big deal with AMD to work on the future of Xbox hardware. And I'm sorry, if you have to come out and say that something is not actually being abandoned because everybody thought it was being abandoned, and when they saw reports and leaks saying it's being abandoned, everybody went, yeah, I believe it. It's not good. It's not good. The confidence in the Xbox brand is so low that even according to Xbox, some person is out there making stuff up about it being canceled and abandoned. And it's so believable because of how terribly the brand has been managed and networked with the community that everybody's like, yep, no, I totally buy that. Totally buy that they would abandon their hardware. Makes total sense. Like, and that's assuming that they're telling the truth. I think what the guy said, because I think maybe the statement can be quite telling. What the leaker said, who again has had a pretty good track record recently with stuff, what he said was that they were specifically going and those plans were up in the air now. So things that were locked down are no longer locked down. Things that were totally agreed upon are now up in the air and not necessarily locked down. And the statement from Xbox is that we are actively investing in our future first-party consoles and devices designed, engineered, built by Xbox. That's their official statement on the matter. It doesn't actually counter what was claimed by the leaker. What the leaker said was that stuff is like still in the works. It's just up in the air now, whether it'll actually seeing itself or end up seeing it all the way through. Like whether or not it'll actually end up releasing when they thought it would or in the way that they thought it would. Like none of this actually contradicts what the leaker was saying, which is also quite interesting. And whether you're an Xbox fanboy, whether you're a Sony pony, a member of the PC Master Race, whatever, I think we can all agree that the messaging and management of the Xbox brand has been an unmitigated disaster this generation. Nobody knows what they're doing. It doesn't seem that even Xbox leadership clearly knows what they're doing. They're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. The initial pitch for Game Pass was that it's the best value in gaming, that we can keep prices low because of the scale of subscribers that we'll have. We can also offer a ton of amazing games and also niche games that wouldn't historically end up getting produced and published. We can offer those on the service because they are sort of subsidized by the big stuff. So it all works out together and you can create this incredible library of games of big stuff and little stuff all together for a low price. And that was a really cool product offering. That's a cool pitch. Did not end up being the case. Now it seems like the entire platform is being built around the biggest behemoth games of like Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, as they outlined, like the big stuff. And everything else, if it can try and encourage the same sort of, I guess, loop of getting people to subscribe and stay subscribed, then those games can be produced. But it's going to pretty much be totally reliant on the big AAA stuff because the money just isn't coming in. And now, weirdly though, this is what's really bizarre. It's almost flipped because the Call of Duty gamble was such a miscalculation. It seems like now the little stuff has to subsidize the big stuff, which is bizarre. Like the deals that smaller games, smaller publishers, smaller developers, the deals they're going to get are going to be impacted by the fact that Call of Duty is losing so much money by being on Game Pass. It's just a disaster. It's just a mess. It seems like a lot of this is also being pushed by the leadership in the upper echelons of Microsoft. Like I said, it's now being reported on that Amy Hood is coming out and is supervising all of this and is trying to find ways to increase margins and save the business model. But she's doing that by just turning up all the dials on price. And then it's also going to come with a lot of layoffs and restructurings and stuff. And I that's why I totally buy it. And I've heard rumblings of similar stuff that there's going to be massive layoffs early next year. It's possible, like most likely towards the end of their fiscal year next year. But they're going to start to clean house even more. And it's not just going to be Xbox, to be fair. It's going to be across all of Microsoft. And this is the also kind of stupid thing with the AI stuff. Satya Nadella has pitched that AI is going to be the future of the company. AI is going to increase margin. It's going to allow them to have smaller teams, which is code for laying people off. It's going to have all of these efficiency improvements, but we haven't really seen them. In fact, AI adoption rates are dropping. So companies are adopting AI tools less and less quickly over the last like 2 months compared to where they thought they would be, which is exponentially higher. So it seems like whatever the promise of AI was, there is a lot of potential there, but it's not being met in the way that companies that are producing AI products thought they would be. But Satya needs to save face. So what's Satya going to do? I think he's going to start laying people off and being like, see, these are efficiencies we're able to gain because of AI. So yes, we're laying lots of people off, but we're going to make up for that by using AI tools to replace them. So we're not actually seeing productivity drop by laying these people off. We're actually just seeing costs reduced, but efficiency stays the same, whether or not that's true, because it's been reported on multiple times that Microsoft teams, including game studios, are being mandated to use Copilot in their workflows. So it's like, yeah, you need to be using Copilot and these AI tools when you are responding to emails, when you are analyzing spreadsheets, when you're doing this or that, because they want you to adopt it. They want it to become normalized and used in the enterprise Sweet. So I think it's just going to continue going like this. There's going to be mass layoffs. There's going to be games canceled that we thought looked really promising. There's going to be all sorts of cost cutting measures, and it's just going to keep going and going and going. Prices will continue to rise. I don't think this is the end of like Game Pass price hikes at all. It's just going to keep going, and that's going to be the future of Xbox for a while. Cannot believe it. They had a layup with how PlayStation has run their stuff this generation, but here we are. Here we are, man. Here we are. Yeah, train your job replacement. Yeah, literally. I mean, that's what reportedly happened with the guys over at Microsoft, or King, the developers behind Candy Crush. They were reportedly working on an AI tool to build levels for Candy Crush. They were laid off and replaced by the AI tool they helped build. Does that hurt or what? Does that not just feel so bad? Doesn't feel good. Sure doesn't, but that's going to happen a lot more. A lot more. Just you wait. Because here's the thing. Where's the natural conclusion of like the AI craze? Well, what happened with the dot-com bubble? What happened with the dot-com bubble was that every company that had anything to do with the internet saw massive spikes in massive spikes in stock price, not revenue. So there were stories of like companies that would rebrand and just be like, oh, we are Vetrix Tech. But then they rebrand into vetrixtech.com. And that's the name of their company now. And their stock price jumps 10%. And you're like, why? That doesn't make sense. And it's because when everybody thinks there's a gold rush, even if there's a rumbling that there might be gold in them there hills, they sprint over there and throw money at it. Because even if there's only a 5% chance or a 1% chance of striking gold, the reward for striking that gold is so immense, it's worth it. It's worth the risk because it is literally just gambling in the financial markets. And that works until people sort of collectively agree that the gold rush is over, that there's no more money that's going to be flowing in. And that can happen with a little bit of iffiness on confidence. It can begin with one company starting to go under or reporting failed projects or loss of revenue, whatever. And that's enough to like jumpstart a scare that spooks everybody. They all start pulling their money out. And just like any other run on the banks, if money starts getting pulled out en masse, then you end up with a crash and major corrections. And I think that that's what's going to happen with the AI stuff. OpenAI will survive. XAI will still be there. Microsoft will still be there. But you're probably going to see like a 10, 20, maybe even 30% drop in some of these companies' stock prices. It's reported that the dot-com bubble was roughly 1/15 the size of the AI bubble right now. The 2008 financial crisis, it's estimated was about a quarter as big as the current overvaluations in the AI bubble. That's not good. That is bad. So just saying. It's why I'm sitting on the sidelines with the market right now. I could have my money sitting in some of the big stocks, but after reading some of these like latest breakdowns from like major multi-billion-dollar hedge fund managers, and they are even like, this doesn't make sense. And when the market stops making sense, you should be worried. The other rule of thumb is that the market can stay irrational far longer than you can stay liquid. And that's true, which is why it's dangerous to try and short this type of thing. But it's why somebody like Warren Buffett with Berkshire Hathaway is just sitting on the sidelines with like $170 billion in cash, because he's like, I'm not going to try to short it. I'm not going to try to time the market. I'm just going to sit on the sidelines. And when it crashes, I get to buy everything on a deep sale. And that's how he's treating it. So who knows? Maybe it happens next week, maybe tomorrow, maybe still 6 months or a year from now is when it adjusts. But the market will adjust for sure. All of this to say, Microsoft continues to just make blunder after blunder. And again, I think that it's that they are trying to run the company the way that they run other Microsoft software teams and products and services, and you just can't make video games the same way. It's just not the same thing. And they are learning that the hard way. You can tell some obscure company, hey, we this product that we're making for your enterprise software, we like laid off some of the team that was working on it, but we'll still be able to deliver it in Q1 of next year. And they're like, okay. As long as it does what it needs to do, as long as it calculates what we need it to calculate, spits it out, logs the data where it needs to log it, we'll be okay, whatever, because it's a tool. With video games, you're trying to make a piece of art, and you just cannot build it the same way as like a Microsoft security update for Windows 11. It just doesn't work that way, but they keep trying to treat it like it works that way, and I don't think it's going to go well.
He took my thing.